Camera's gone, by the way.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Pitch, a daily women's football podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. Today it is brought to you by myself, Alka, and I am joined by the brilliant, the fabulous Paige.
I like that. I like that intro.
I'm gonna
take it. Yeah, the double one. Usually I just get one. I got double title today.
Feeling extra nice today. It's a Monday. It's not Monday morning, it's a Tuesday morning. For you guys, it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right, so today we will be discussing. Do you know what? It's uniform by now. It's timetable. We will be discussing transfers because when are you ever going to hear my voice and not hear me talk about transfers?
She loves it.
It's just why not? It's basically just a free ticket to gossip, really, and I love it. We are going to also be talking about some interesting, setup. Some little club affiliations, some new possibilities of the WSL, and last but not least, we will be talking about the recent football fashion link-ups on and off the pitch. So,
my favourite things.
What a lovely way to start my day. All my favourite topics. I love clothes.
Yep.
And I love gossip.
Love football, and you love gossip.
There we go. Right, so let's actually start off with it's not a confusing topic, but it's one that took me a little bit by surprise. I didn't expect it to happen. But Celtic and the Rangers, they all of a sudden want in.
Is it them or is it the PPLL?
True, I think it's a good hand of both.
Yeah, I think it obviously is very conversation heavy led by the league as opposed to the clubs themselves. But they've obviously shown interest. They've had that conversation or they've had those preliminary talks.
Because I feel like if they really didn't want to, it wouldn't have been brought up in the first place, because ultimately even though it is a hierarchy, if two of your clubs don't want to play, they're not going to play.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's one that probably has never really been explored in the British leagues, like in English, well, British, yes, call them British leagues. Probably because of the scope or the sort of the difference in one, finance, which then leads to talent. But also I think both sort of England and Scotland, especially in this situation, are very protective of their own football, right? There's such a big rivalry still. We're technically part of the same nation, but we definitely don't fight like that. We fight on completely opposite ends, obviously.
Like a big derby every match.
Exactly. England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales all compete as individual nations when it comes to, national tournaments. Well, when the others can make it in. So I think, from a domestic league perspective, it would be exactly the same. I don't see, even, the Scottish League in the men's game ever wanting to join with the Premier League. I'm sure they'd like the money and the sort of revenue that comes as a result from it, but I don't think there would ever be a conversation that any of the Scottish teams would join join the Premier League. But it could be something that is trialled within the women's game. I don't think it would ever translate across to the men's game, and I'm not even sure that it would happen in the women's game and how that would look. But I think the expansion of the WSL is always a good sort of topic to discuss, isn't it? And to look into and how they're expecting to try and do that.
I think the topic, the setup of the WSL has always been one that I could probably yap about for ages, because we know we've got so many teams, yet we choose 12. 12 is not new. However, when are we going to slowly make it 14? When are we going to slowly make it 15? Obviously, I understand it's got to grow with the growth of the game, but within the last 2 years, we can see that growth of the game. We've seen Crystal Palace. This is the first year where I think, wow, I'm a massive advocate for hating on the gaps between WSL Championship, national. Any tier, I will always fight the gap in talent. But this is the first year where I've seen the bridging of the gap with Crystal Palace coming up from the Championship to the WSL. Obviously, we've seen it fail many a times. Bristol City, unfortunately, relegated. Reading, unfortunately, relegated. Like, it comes and goes, part and parcel. Obviously, that's the setup of the game. But I'm feeling as if now in those leagues they're pushing each other further and further, even into some sort of like, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 teams. Maybe allowing for that WSL to slightly gain that, maybe that one extra team. Obviously, this year the Championship has unfortunately had an odd number of teams.
Which is just weird to me.
It is, because I get confused every time I see the timetable. Like, where's that team gone? Why have they got 2 weeks? I don't know if that's a hindrance or a blessing that they've now got extra time to recollect themselves and train. I don't know if it is, but maybe we can now see, right, to even that up a bit, we take two up.
Yeah.
And we just relegate the one for now.
Yeah. When you think about the development of like the Premier League though, so the Premier League started in 94 with 22 teams. So never were they ever down to the numbers that WSL was. And I recognise, yes, it has to start somewhere. Obviously the women's game is a lot more different to the men's. The Premier League was the reinvention of the existing football league. But I still think like there's so few teams in that league that it becomes a little bit more predictable. And I think that we've had, some upsets and some interesting ties and results this year, or in the last few seasons, yes, but specifically this year, that I think it does open up like the questions that should the league be bigger as an entirety? And then what does that look like? Is it more championship teams that move up? Is it, teams from Scotland, from Northern Ireland, from Wales? Like, is it that angle that we look to take just to see if that gap can be bridged across the nations?
Yeah.
But I think the growth of the game is only going to encourage more teams to join in the top league in the country. And potentially, if they're looking to be the best league in the world, period, like case point proven, like no ever question mark, then it has to be bigger than what it is. But obviously, an interesting way to consider it is bringing teams in from other nations. So, yeah, I think they want to make it like a closed league, like the league in the States. But
like even the NWSL will have 14 teams.
Yeah.
And, we see that it's so easy to just add in teams. Obviously, Bay FC is quite new.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's different because they're just, making their teams as they want to come and go. And it's a bit difficult for someone to say, right, I'm going to start a new WSL team. I'm going to base them in Cornwall and I'm going to call them Cornwall, And I'm going to transfer in 25 of my best players around the world. Like, that's something you can't do, unlike the NWSL.
Yeah.
But I still feel like you need you need more of a challenge, like you were saying. It's so predictable. It's like, especially now that once a team loses 2 games or maybe draws quite a few significantly, you know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
In no ideal world can I see not only Chelsea dropping points before the end of the season, but anyone being able to reach that and bridge that gap to even make there a title race.
Yeah. 7 points clear of Arsenal.
It's crazy. And
like 10 games played, like everything else is, the same across the board. Yeah.
Like,
and now it's more of an exciting sort of second, third, fourth type tie because the top one is basically taken care of, but like
it'll slowly get boring seeing, right, who's getting the Champions League spots. Why are we watching the WSL to see who's only getting the who's fighting for that third Champions League spot, not the title,
Yeah, exactly. So, do we want them?
No, no, but yeah, but no.
I think it's got to be an expansion through the Championship first and foremost. I think we look at the clubs there that could make that natural step into the WSL with a little bit more money and a little bit more, better facilities perhaps, to sort of put them in good stead to be able to compete better than the likes of Leicester and Crystal Palace have done, but making there be not such a massive gap. But I just think if the Celtics or the Rangers came to the WSL, they would not add any value to this to
No.
the competitiveness of the league.
Oh no, it'd still be mid-table.
Even if that, I would be consistently week on week to perform in the WSL. I think is interesting. So we'll see. The Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasts with dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, fantasy football, and a daily Premier League wrap-up broadcasted in 5 different languages. This is your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find GSPN wherever you find your usual podcasts.
Right, so now on to the topic I've been waiting for.
Alka's favourite conversation of every podcast.
Do you know what? The only reason I like to have a conversation on podcasts on transfers is because I really like to come up with some sort of conspiracy as to why they've left their club.
You're looking at all the dark angles.
Yeah, a little like, oh, what sparked that little interest in moving? Right, so we're just going to start with a really basic one, which should have happened a long time ago, and I'm very grateful it has. Catherine Cole from Arsenal. She has decided to leave the club and sign a permanent contract with Roma.
Why not? North London or Rome? I know where I'm going.
Oh, by all means. I'd go Rome as well. Their kit is beautiful as well. I can't even begin to start. Another thing, I love kits. Oh. But this is what she needed. I think we saw it slowly. First we saw Taya leave, London City Lionesses. She's absolutely smashing it there. We're slowly seeing the little glimpses of people who we know aren't going to make that first team, aren't going to make that subs in that first team. And so it's time for them to go in the most respectful way to better their career. And that is what I'm excited for. She already managed to get some minutes earlier this week as Roma had a game. She came on as a substitute. This is what I think individual players need to start doing for themselves. And I think came more from Cole than Renee. Obviously, Renee probably is like, yeah, I'd love to keep you, but obviously I genuinely think now at this point it's a bit of a 50-50 because you can tell by the dynamic at Arsenal it's all about just pure respect for each other. And so I'm sure, I'm sure I've never met her, but I'm sure Renee is not one to shy away from a conversation saying, look, I want what's best for you. Staying here won't be what's best for you. Let me help you find a place that's going to suit you.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just where can I get the most money, where can I loan you off to and maybe keep you so I can pull you back. No, where is fully best for you, whether that means leaving or whether that means loaning or whatever. And I think that is a perfect example. We also have Maddie L, who just signed her permanent contract at the same week as Viv Leah last week, because they both just turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking to, I think it must have been Catherine, about one of them's going to leave. That's just part and parcel. You can't sign 2 fresh new players, youth, first senior contracts and keep them. I know Katie Reid is staying. Jonas has already had this conversation. Katie's had this conversation. And from past matches, you can tell that Viv Leah is more set in the senior team than Maddie L. So we've had a Maddie L leave as well. But that's on loan, I'm assuming.
Loan moves, I think, are so beneficial, though. I think they give you that real opportunity to go and prove your worth in potentially a less pressured environment, a less title-seeking club, but still with a real ambition to be successful within the women's setup. So loan moves, especially for, young, fresh academy kind of talent, let's call them, where they can start to get that first team football in obviously the highest league in the country and go out and prove a point, prove that they're deserving of it, and then you can start to sort of regain your spot in the Arsenal or whoever it might be.
I think Yeah, 100%. I'm such an advocate for loan. Whether, like, sometimes I think it's a bit weird. They go into maybe a club that isn't even like a tiered club, but like at the end of the day, whatever's going to get them that experience and just overall life skills is what's going to aid them the best.
Yeah. Well, did we see that with Grace Clinton as a very sort of basic example?
Yeah, 100%. She thrived at Tottenham. She
Exactly.
thrived
And now
so.
look at her. Do you know what I mean? Now look at what she's. We literally spoke about it the last time you and I spoke. We spoke about her contract.
Yeah, as,
So she's
as
gone and she's got the experience in a club like Tottenham, massive club, fighting for and battling week in, week out, to improve themselves within the domestic league. But the pressure from,
is slightly lower because obviously she'd gone from United, who had just been second in the league,
yeah,
to obviously
exactly
Tottenham,
that.
maybe fifth or sixth. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
still pressured, but it's a very more. It's a subtle pressure. Moving on, we've had two Villa departures. We've had Freya Gregory, who has left Villa, and also Kenza Dali. With Freya, she is still so young. Again, I'm going down the same route of sometimes it's time for a change. I always used to think of Aston Villa as a bit of a retirement club.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry I've said it. But usually that is kind of the part and part. That's the sequence. We see it. We see it right now with Rachel Daly. I'm not saying she's going to retire anytime soon, but like, back end of the career, we saw it with Jill Scott. Like, but it's still such a amazing club to the fact that they can withhold such high standards while also upkeeping a certain
Yeah.
demographic. I'd like to say.
And a move.
Charlie, on the other hand, is someone I didn't expect to leave right now. I didn't have her on my transfer list. I think when she's fit and when she gets that game time, she smashes it. And obviously, she's put out a statement. She's posted a little Instagram post as to why she's left, which is totally understandable, and I can agree with that. But I have no clue what she's going to do now.
Yeah. I mean, well, just going back to Freya Gregory,
Oh yeah,
signed a contract with Newcastle. So I think it's one of those where the pressure is off. You're
yeah,
now
definitely.
playing for a championship side that will give you the growth and the progression that maybe you weren't getting week in, week out at Villa in a club that is, huh?
Game time.
Exactly. And for a club who has such a massive following and backing of their women's side,
Yeah,
this is the perfect move, I think, for any young player looking to still be in a high pressure environment. Because don't get me wrong, the Newcastle team are there's expectations, but I think an environment where she can really thrive. And yeah, great move. But back to obviously Kenza Dali, which was what you were saying. I think yeah, you have to ultimately put your mental health first. And I think obviously she's had a lot of pressures that potentially she's put on herself to perform and just maybe hasn't reached the heights that she's expected to. And that's got to wear you down a little bit. That's got to be on your mind. And if it then impacts your mental health off the pitch, your playing performance on the pitch, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky balance.
yeah, definitely. I think it's one that we see players getting right more often these days. But then again, it's one that even as like any sort of player, professional or recreational, if you love football, you're ultimately always putting football first.
Yeah,
Whether you're injured, it's just you're not in the right space. It's just drilled into you as a player. You're a team player, so you're gonna play.
yeah,
And so it's nice to see her take that step back. Obviously, we want her to be able to get back and get healthy in both senses, ready for the Euros because she is such a key player in that France squad. We also want her ultimately to be able to enjoy that Euros and not go just to play a full stop.
yeah,
And so I can only think that this move is then going to it is going to be a bit of a load move, like a youth move. So let's go somewhere that's going to take the pressure off of me. Maybe back to France, feeling a bit comfort-esque sort of ways.
Yeah. NWSL seems to be the
The
probable
call
move.
the wave, isn't it?
Yeah, the
That's the one.
probable move, which, again, I mean,
That
where would I rather live, Birmingham or San Diego for my mental health? I'm gonna go with probably Birmingham, to be honest. San Diego is a bit of
and maybe Birmingham. You're right.
no, yeah, I think it's got to be the right move for her. She's come from obviously being with PSG and in a really sort of pressured environment there. WSL, a lot of adjustments moving to England, even though France, England is not all that far away. But I think there's still changes you've got to make in your life, in your day to day.
There's been many international fixture as well, so there's not actually been very many chances just to slow down.
Yeah.
Obviously, the England girls had an opportunity to slow down. We didn't make it to the Olympics, but for all those teams that did make it into Olympics, that's like third year running on international competitions. And so I think hopefully after this Euros, everyone can just settle down a bit more.
100%.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spend a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
So, straight back into it. Final topic of the day, and probably my favourite topic because of the link up between football and fashion. But recently we saw Cortez, who, for those who aren't familiar and are listening from overseas, is a UK streetwear brand from a designer named Clint. And a lot of the sort of stuff that he makes is heavily influenced by sport, street culture, and the intertwinement of those. And he's recently had a collaboration with Nike on a bunch of Air Max 95s, and recently on a new Huarache. But what I want to focus on is a new commercial that was created to sort of showcase this new collection, this new partnership with Nike, and it's based on like an old school 90s basketball commercial. If you haven't already seen the commercial that we're discussing, but also the original, I highly recommend going to watch it because it's really nostalgic. It's really cool. The basketball one was really, I remember it being so sick back in the day, and they've kind of taken the same sort of theme. It's all situated in one sort of blank warehouse type space. And it's a real opportunity to just showcase like skills. Obviously with the basketball, it was like ball skills in the hands. Like, I don't know what you describe football skills with basketball is, but the new one that they've sort of redesigned and gone with, obviously is like a football based one. They've got some ex-pros. Edgar Davids is in there. They've got some obviously current and up and coming massive players for Real Madrid with Eduardo Camavinga in there. But we've also seen guest appearances from female footballers, which I just love to see. And I think is just so inspiring because, whether you're just someone that loves fashion or you're someone that loves the combination of the two, to see your favorite athletes participate in brand campaigns such as this. Obviously, Nike do a lot of brand campaigns with our female footballers. The same, obviously, with Adidas, Puma, New Balance, etc., etc. It's just really exciting to see. And in the Cortez commercial, we had Chloe Kelly, the lioness, the Euros celebrant, and Frida, who I think she does play, but I've also seen her all over social media with just her
styler, isn't she?
Ridiculous skills. Yeah.
And
for the two of them to be part of like something like this, which is really just like, it's really British, it's really London, but it's really global at the same time. And I love the fact that, Clint's obviously tapped into obviously Nike talent, i.e. Chloe Kelly, but also female football talent with Frida. It's just sick. I just love to see it. And I love to see female footballers participating in this kind of thing because it's just refreshing to see, and I hope that it continues to inspire, like, that new generation coming through that are interested in both worlds. So yeah, I've talked for like enough time, but I love it. Go.
No, I totally agree. I think being able to see like both sides, obviously you can use the big names, use the big brands, like, so be it. You kind of like, not that I expect it, but you slowly come into the territory of expecting it more and more, especially off of brands like Nike, Adidas, Puma, who sponsor female footballers.
Yeah.
Then also now like drawing attention to like Frida, for example, who you know her if you know her, if you don't, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
You'll
will
have definitely seen her on your For You page if
oh yeah,
you are interested in women's football, but you wouldn't know her name if someone said to you on the street, "Oh, you know Frida?" Meh.
No, I don't. Yeah, but and I want to see more of this. I want to see this in smaller brands. I want to see this in bigger brands. Obviously, it's going to be easier for bigger brands to be able to draw that attention in. But anything that boosts anything in the women's game will always be a massive bonus. And I think we need to keep going like that way with it. Obviously, we see loads of like fashion link ups on like with celebrities. Obviously, like for example, Antonia Bronze, she is so incredibly talented. Like what I would give to own an Antonia Bronze jacket is
Right.
not even own it, just have a picture in it. I just want a picture.
Yeah.
It's
just for the memes.
insane. Like because I even watch her TikToks of how she actually makes them and the process behind the designs and stuff like that, and I think it is sick. I'm a sucker for a jacket, especially like a leather or a bomber jacket, something of that sort. And so her jackets,
Yeah.
obviously we've seen it on loads of people. We've seen it on Gabby, we've seen it on Leah Williamson, Talama Benson. You've definitely seen her jackets, even if you don't think you have.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think she's done it in such a way that like is still so feminine, because I think it's often difficult to wear like a football inspired item and still make it like feminine and sexy and cute and something that like, pardon?
It's a bit of a biker jacket.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think obviously with biker jackets, you can the way that you shape them, the cropness of them exactly can make it more female friendly, right? But I think like it is often at times difficult, I think, to really sell to like a non-football girl. But like Talami Benson, I'm not being funny, but this girl ain't here playing Sunday League football, is she? And the same way Gabby's missus, like she's not out here playing football. She's literally a footballer's wife, but she's able to wear football themed apparel and make it look really good. So definitely shout out to Antonia Bronze. Shout out to obviously all the jackets that she's making. It's incredible. And if you want to hook your girls up at GSPN Global Sports Podcast Network, the Women's WSL, you can, because we would love a jacket.
We're not complaining. Absolutely.
Yeah, we would absolutely love that. But I think the more pop-up collabs, fusion of fashion of football that we can see, like the better, as far as I'm concerned, because I absolutely love it. I think, to be honest, that might be all we have time for today. We just want to thank you guys for taking the time to give us a listen. If you haven't already, give us a follow on all the social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, X, all over the shop. But thank you for joining us. We've been Beyond the Pitch, and have a great day.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.